This is recording right now, so I have to get ready. All right, keep going, and I want to check this. All right, this is the back side of the review. So what you want to do is look at your identity sheet, because we already did this one. Remember we did this one on the, I think it was on that root thing, but find secant. Secant squared is really tan squared plus 1. So we're going to replace secant squared with tan squared x plus 1. And I'm going to go ahead and add, well, I'll just keep it over there. I'm going to add the 1 over for a second. I added this 1 over. Okay, so find each of the following ratios you can give into it. So sine. So you know that sine is opposite over hypotenuse, and that cosine is adjacent over hypotenuse, and that tangent is opposite over adjacent. So you're going from O, so this is your opposite side, and this is your adjacent side. This is your hypotenuse. Do you know how to do the Pythagorean theorem to figure out this third side? All right, Pythagorean theorem is a squared plus b squared equals c squared. Okay, so c is always the hypotenuse, so that goes over by itself. And then you have 7 squared, and then you just write b squared, and you find b. Okay, so you do, this is 49. So go ahead and solve that. Do you know how to do that from there? Like, go ahead and square this, and then subtract that over, and then square root it. So get that, and I'll tell you what if you got the answer. I think I know what the answer is already. All right, so you'll notice, okay, we have to distribute the 2. And now, you notice that this term right here is negative? Since that's your highest term, you don't want your highest degree term to be negative. So we're going to move everything to the other side. So that's going to be tan to the 4th x. This 2 tan squared x is going to be negative 2 tan squared x. Now, you'll notice that there's a 2 and a 1 here. What is 2 plus 1? It is 3, correct? So if you take that to the other side, that should be minus 3 on the other side. And then you need to factor. So this is tan squared x, tan squared x. Okay, so when you're splitting 4 of these, there's got to be 2 here and 2 here. Now, the other one is factors of negative 3. That add up to negative 2. So that's got to be negative 3 and positive 1. Set those both equal to 0. Let's put it right here. Okay, thanks, Les. Okay. So take the square root of that. So tan squared x equals 3. Square root both sides. Tan x equals plus or minus square root of 3. So what? Give me some angles that have a tan of radical 3. So it's supposed to be in degrees, so it would be 60. Then 180 minus 60 is 120. 180 plus 60 is 240. And 360 minus 60 is 300. Those are 4 of your answers. Then this next one, if you take this one and set it equal to 0, you get tan squared x equals negative 1. But if you take a square root, you can't take the square root of a negative 1. So there's no answer on this part because you can't take the square root of a negative 1. So you have 4 answers. This was on your group quiz. And then this one, let's go ahead and this term right here. I don't like that there's a tan in this. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to write this as sine over cosine. Just that part. And then rewrite the rest of this. And I'll add the 1 over. See what we have. So just this first term alone. Do you see how the cosines cancel? So now we got rid of that tangent. And we have this. Now, this is still bad because we're still not in the same trig function. So now we're going to want to change this one. You can always change a squared one over to another trig function, but you can't change this one. So we can change. I'm doing a video for my honors class, and I'm helping him do it. I just got it fixed. So I can start doing them now. I can start doing them now. All right. So sine x minus 2. So cosine squared is one of your Pythagorean identities. Cosine squared is 1 minus sine squared. So you're going to replace this with 1 minus sine squared x. I liked what you had before. What'd you do? You had 625, right? Minus 49. What? Do that again. What's 625 minus 49? Whatever you had before was, you were on the right page. Yeah. So now take the square root of that. Do you know how to do that? Second x squared. So we're going to distribute the negative 2. Okay, 24. Put a 24 right there. Okay, that's how you do Pythagorean theorem to find the missing side. All right, now, so we've already got them labeled, and they want you to find sine of O. So sine is opposite over hypotenuse. So the opposite side is 24, and the hypotenuse is 25. So you write 24 over 25, and you're done. So try to answer all those questions. And then they want you to do O, but then the next time they want you to do from M. So then you have to change the words. Because from M, this is opposite, and this is adjacent. But that's still hypotenuse. So do O from how we labeled them now, then cross these words out and change them. And then do M, and I'll check it when you're done. All right, so let's go. 2 sine squared x plus sine x, and then negative 2 and 1 is negative 1. There's your trinomial that you have to factor. And then you get 2 sine x and sine x. That's the only way you can factor 2 sine squared x. So cosine's adjacent over hypotenuse. So what's the adjacent side? And what's hypotenuse? So you put 7 over 25. You don't even need a calculator for these. And then, see, factors of negative 1 are 1 and negative 1, but we need this to add up to 1. So I would like the positive 1 to go here because that's 2, and the negative 1 to go here because that's negative 1, and that equals 1. So then you take both of these, set it equal to 0, and sine x equals 1/2. And the other one, sine x equals negative 1. So arc sine of 1/2 is, what angle has a sine of 1/2? 30. And then it's also in the second quadrant, 150. When is sine negative 1? That's only at 270. Unit circle knowledge. So that's 9. And then this one, I like the sine squared x. No, I don't. All right, we have a cosine x. This cosine x is not going anywhere. So let's change everything to cosine. Change everything in terms of cosine. So change both of these to cosine. So sine squared. What is sine squared in terms of cosine? It should be 1 minus cosine squared x. I'll keep it in parentheses. What is cosine 2x? Well, there's 3 things for cosine 2x. But I want the one that just has cosine, so I want this one. The one that just has the cosine. 2 cosine squared x minus 1. So I'm going to keep that in parentheses. 2 cosine squared x minus 1. Then you have negative cosine x, and all equals 0. So 7 over 25, and tangent is opposite. Okay, good. And then you change the words. So sine of m is opposite, which would be 7 over 25. Good. Cosine would be adjacent, 24 over 25. That's kind of like a 9. And then tangent is opposite over adjacent. Perfect. Now write out what SOHCAHTOA means in your own words. So SOH means this. So I would just rewrite that right there. Do that. Okay, do you guys understand what I'm doing right now? Now, these parentheses, I only put them there just to show you that I changed this. I substituted this for that. I substituted that for that, and I kept this. Now what you have to do is just add like terms. So you have a 2 cosine squared and a negative cosine squared, which is a 1 cosine squared x. So these are done. Then I have negative cosine x next. And then I have 1 and negative 1, and these cancel. So this is all you have left if you add like terms. This is not a trinomial, so you don't have to factor it like we did on the other 2. This is a GCF problem. So set each factor equal to 0. So when is cosine 0? And it's still between 0 and 360, so cosine is 0 at 90 and 270. And when is cosine 1? That should be at 0. And there you are. This one. Okay, so sine, let's say sine is this. Then put cosine is this. And then tangent is that. Okay. Find the following measures using the diagram here. So let's do the Pythagorean theorem again. We're going to write 33 squared plus 65 squared equals c squared. We don't know the hypotenuse this time. So see, the hypotenuse always has to be by itself. So these are legs of the right triangle, so those go here. So do that on your calculator, do that on your calculator. Add them together and then take their square root. So on this one, you're going to actually take the arc sine of each side. So then you're going to have, 5x equals arc sine of 1. Because there's a 5, we have to do 5 sets of all the angles that have an arc sine of 1. So an arc sine of 1, when is sine 1? That's only at 90, right? So sine is 1 at 90. But we have to do this 5 times around. 5 coterminals. So the next one would be 450. Because we're adding 360 each time. Add 360 again. 360 would be 0, 810. And then add 360 to this. Get 1170. And then add 360 again. And I think it's 1530. I'm doing this in my head, so you guys should be checking me on the calculator. So those are 5 angles, okay, because of the 5. And then the last step is you have to divide by 5. So that means we're dividing all these by 5. Because your final answer has to be angles between 0 and 360. So 90 divided by 5 is 18. 450 divided by 5 is 90, I think. 810 divided by 5 is... Can I borrow that real quick? Let's go finish. This is my last question on this video, then I'll be helping you full time. 810 divided by, divided by 5 is 162. And then make sure you put degrees on these. 1170 divided by 5 is 234. And then 1530 divided by 5 is 306. I just realized that all the answers are at the bottom of the page, and I'm trying to do this on the calculator. There they are. Boom. Okay, that's the video.